Mr. Lee, it does seem on the face of it that you are indeed an idiot and cannot chair a meeting. What can you do for a man who is living at subsistence level after you have profited? I want to know what kind of mirror image do you have of yourself. This is what I am concerned about. We're the black workers in the small island of Barbados where I am from. One does not join a club if one cannot afford to pay the dues oneself. Do not wait until the end of the month. Close your offices and be out of Barbados in 2 days.
He was resolute when he's making his decisions on behalf of the people of Barbados.
He strongly believed that service to the country should not be financially driven. Politics for him was about duty.
We were hoping that you could find a little something for either of us to do.
Your constituency representative is Al Hopkins, right?
It's about that piece of land in St. Lucie that belonged to my father.
I am not signing this.
What are you doing in my house at this hour of the morning?
Barrow was among the dominant figures in the political landscape of Barbados for more than 2 decades.
Nobody has ever been revered in history for having become the richest man.
Tonight we are here for the world premiere of the Joseph film. This movie features a cast from both Ghana as well as the Caribbean. This is an exciting movie that explores self-identity. It's the journey of a Jamaican doctor who makes that life-changing trip to Ghana to explore his ancestral roots. So we're here on the red carpet for the Joseph premiere. We're here with some fabulous attendees. What are you looking most forward to about this film?
Since the inception of the film, I was around the first day they came to the country. And so seeing Ghana, Jamaica, Barbados coming to Ghana to produce this film, I think is a big achievement for us to be part of it. And then for the coming at this time was just the right time of the year of return.
This film is meant to be an inspiration and is an honor to our own, the late Jake Otanka Obetsebi Lamti, who birthed the Joseph Project back in 2007.
We already had a project by the late Jake Otanka Obetsebi Lamte. So when the team initially from Barbados came through to the office and were looking for facilitation for this film to be produced. So we've gone all out to make sure that they had the necessary support. And more so when it is happening in the year of return.
So we're here to celebrate the movie. The cast are here, the producers are here. It's fun, and this is what the year of return is supposed to be. A celebration of the resilience of the African spirit and a celebration of what we stand for as Africans.
I'm very excited about this film, Joseph. For it to happen in the year of return is just fantastic. As a collaboration among 3 countries, Ghana, Jamaica, and Barbados, I think it cements what the year of return is all about. Reaching out to our kith and kin in the diaspora and making sure that after so many years, we really are getting together. I think it was a spiritual journey when I came here.
So we're here with the star of the show, Kivoy Burton. You did a fantastic job in this movie.
Thank you so much.
Playing the character, did you find that the role, because the father was not happy with his son having any interest in going to Africa. Is this a common thing that you find in Jamaica and in the Caribbean? And if so, why do you think that is?
There's a false idea that has been promulgated throughout the Caribbean that Africans are very poor, and when you see an African on TV, it's always a child with a big gut and flies pitching all over their face. So Africa seems scary. And I think that's what people hold on to because that's the representation we get. And a lot of people, even now, when I say, hey, I want to move to Africa, people are like, you want to move to Africa? Why? But Africa is beautiful, people. You should come.
I hope you like the film.
You played the wife of Kweku.
I did, the grieving wife.
What was your favorite part about being in this film?
I think just getting to meet the actors, getting to meet the producer and the director. A female director is always so empowering to have on a set, and somebody that wants to tell such a story. And everybody was just rallying around her, and we just had one tunnel, focus and vision. And I think that was just beautiful. But I've met all these people from Jamaica, and I want to go to Jamaica.
I would say this is the movie that really embodies what the Year of Return it's all about, and it was beautiful. It was better than I expected in terms of the message.
What made you decide to do such a film? Because you captured so much in such a short period of time in this movie.
Yeah, and I was speaking to my Minister of Culture, Honorable John King, and I left that meeting so inspired because he's so in love with Ghana. And then a couple of days later, I met upon a Pan-Africanist in Barbados. And he said to me, we're going on a trip to Ghana. Will you mind documenting our journey where it's a year of return? I said, yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. Let me think about it. And as I thought about it, I thought, why do a documentary? Let's do a narrative that people can laugh a bit and they can cry a little bit and they can connect to the characters. And let's take them on a journey. And so that's what we decided to do. So I teamed up with my friend in Cameroon, Delphine Itambe, and we came together and we put the script together.
This is a signal for other people that we should continue telling our stories. And I hope that this encourages people in the Ghanaian community and other African countries that it's important that we work together with those in the African diaspora to create stories that tell our story from our perspectives.
For Bravo, take 4, A mark. Set.
Action.
This is the behind-the-scenes story of the Barrow freedom fighter film.
A truly historic film based on the life of the Right Excellent Errol Wharton Barrow, who led Barbados to independence in 1966.
And became the first Prime Minister of Barbados.
My name is Nadia Sarmova.
My name is Mike Barnett.
Hi, I'm Marietta Carter Narcisse.
I'm Director of Photography of the Arrow Barrow Project.
I function as writer, director, and co-producer on the Barrow Freedom Fighter film.
My training spans over 11 years now, since I've graduated from film school. I have worked as an assistant director, as an assistant camera throughout the span of that time. I'm a graduate of Florida State University, as I've also attended UCLA. My training and experience has been essential, but I think I've learned the most in the real world and actually being on film sets, and I've been on countless film sets at this point, and that has been the best experience and training for me.
I was the sound mixer on the Barrow Freedom Fighter project. I've been recording sound for about 40 years and kind of came up through the ranks. I've done a little bit of everything in the film business, including shooting, editing, working lighting, but I do sound for a living, and I didn't really learn any of it in college. It was mostly through School of Hard Knocks and learning it the hard way.
And I am here excited to work on this Arrow Barrow project with Marcia, makeup, hair, wardrobe producer.
As a department, costumes, makeup, and hair coupled with the right cinematography bring the director's vision to life. It's magical when it happens correctly. Our work only looks as good as it's lit. Film is such a collaborative effort. It's like a well-oiled machine. Every part of the machine needs to be working properly in order for that machine to perform. When you're doing a period piece of this nature, something that is historically correct and already documented, there's a certain amount of research that has to take place prior to shooting. From a visual standpoint, we, costume, makeup, and hair, have to make sure that what is on screen is relatable to the audience. So our work needs to accurately reflect what the period looks like as far as the clothes, belts, shoes, hats, gloves, jewelry, etc. Hairstyles have to be accurate, and eyes and lips and nails must reflect the colors of the period. Why? Because that's what the audience identifies with. So we are a very critical and integral part of the film.
I've been a cinematographer for a number of years. I've done a lot of documentaries, a lot of feature films. I'm also a director cinematographer, also directed many films. And so I've been in the business about 30 years. Started out as a photographer. So I was a photographer. I'm the son of a photographer. So I've actually been taking pictures since I've been 15 years old. So I've been involved in the visual aspects of photography for a long time.
Well, I've been working in filmmaking for 8 years. I have written and produced 6 feature-length films and directed 7. My research of this film spanned over a 3-year period, at which time I wrote the script for Barrow Freedom Fighter. I found out in doing the research for this film that I really liked history. Although in high school I thought history was the most boring subject ever. But I must say I totally enjoyed doing the research, which then made the writing possible. As director, I was responsible for creatively translating the film script into images on the screen. It is my job to develop a vision for the finished film and work directly with the director of photography on how to achieve it.
Essentially, the role of the AD department, it's best to think of it as a spider web, with the center of the spider web being the hub, which transmits all the information to the other departments. So it's a big job and can be timely and difficult at times when you don't have the right support staff. But it's also very rewarding because you're in charge of facilitating and helping other departments do their job.
My job was to basically take interesting visuals of this project in the interviews and also in the reenactments. So the real fun part, of course, of doing reenactments where you basically have a vintage situation that you're trying to explore visually and trying to achieve something that's interesting. So that was the biggest challenge.
I work closely with the cinematographer and try to arrange with him to have a shot that I can get a microphone in somewhere. The challenges are great. One of the largest challenges that we had was when we were shooting the Prime Minister in his office. 100 yards away or less were the trolleys out on the street and lots of honking horns and motorcycles and trucks. So there were numerous challenges in that respect everywhere. At Parliament was a big boomy room. That was a challenge. Not a lot you can do about that, but we got it as quiet as we could. And just everywhere you go on this earth, there's noise. And unfortunately, I can't make it all go away.
I think my greatest challenge was not having enough trained personnel to supervise each department, which would have given me more uninterrupted time with our lead actors. I was constantly doing 3 and 4 things simultaneously. So in the middle of applying Adrian's lace wig, out of the corner of my eye, I would notice something and I would excuse myself from him to address what I could see. My head
Some people have achieved independence, some were born independent, and some are having independence thrust on them. It is not often that I make allusion to the Hebrew people who went through great tribulation and persecution before they settled in their own country. These Hebrew people also suffered at the time of the prophet Isaiah when they were marching to Babylon. I will therefore quote the prophet of liberation and apply it mutatis mutandis to this situation. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near thee. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution do now pass.
The senior member for St. Michael. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we go independence alone, where are we going to get the money from with the amount of people we have on this island, Mr. Speaker? Where?
Although we may want independence, the better form would be in a federation with the Eastern Caribbean.
It would be better, much better, for us to come together as one independent West Indies.
Why haven't we given this opportunity to the people of Barbados to decide this matter? This is a serious, controversial issue that can only be settled by the referendum.
What is the biggest political anachronism the 20th century has seen? I could understand if this were coming from the white Barbadian only, you know. But I cannot understand this coming from the black Barbadian.
I can't come in this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, and do not speak my mind. I know that I represent the people of St. Joseph, but we must understand that all Barbadians must have a say in this issue.
Mr. Smith went on to quote at great length many of the government members who had previously been in favor of establishing a federation with the Leeward and Windward Islands. Now, this took so long that government members began to speak of a filibuster. He spoke until 4 p.m., way past lunchtime. Mr. Smith himself was getting a bit exhausted and weary.
On a point of order, sir, Mr. Speaker, the honorable senior member has just walked out of the house and walked back in with a glass of milk for another honorable member to drink. Well, the next thing is he would want to come in here in his pajamas. I want to know, sir, if that is the correct procedure, and I'm asking your honor to rule.
Sir, if this foolishness don't stop, sir, soon for no way to bring in pork chop, putting in sauce, roasting stew, and bread and fish both inside here, sir.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want the honorable member for St. Peter to know that since my childhood days, I am accustomed to good food. Excuse me?
Independence now! Independence now! Independence now! Independence now!
In January 1966, when the intense noise of public debate had settled, the House separated on the independence debate. There were 14 ayes in favor of and 8 noes against independence from Britain. A favorable vote followed in the Senate. These were, however, only the first steps on the road to independence. The decision to grant Barbados its independence now rested in the British Colonial Office. An independence conference was therefore scheduled for Lancaster House, England, in July 1966. The Barbados delegation in London for the independence talks comprised both government and opposition representatives and their advisors. It was a very eventful trip, as several events occurred that could have derailed Mr. Barrow's bid to lead Barbados on the road to independence. On one side of a long and imposing table sat Mr. Barrow, and his delegation facing the opposition members on the other side. At the head of the table sat the Secretary of State for the Colonies, Mr. Fred Lee.
Before this conference starts today, there's an important matter that I wish to discuss. I have in my hand a copy of a newspaper that contains an article which states that you, Mr. Errol Barrow, said that I'm an idiot and I do not know how to chair a meeting. Well, before this meeting starts today, the Premier of Barbados will extend to me a public apology.
You, Mr. Lee, are supposed to be a serious and experienced politician. And you come in here, and on the basis of a newspaper report, and you ask me, the Premier of Barbados, to extend a public apology to you before the members of my own cabinet and before the members of Her Majesty's loyal opposition of Barbados? Both myself and the members of my cabinet are professional men, quite capable of earning a living outside of politics. Mr. Lee, it does seem on the face of it that you are indeed an idiot and cannot chair a meeting.
Mr. Barrow, I would have you know I've chaired many conferences of this kind and enjoyed many wonderful relations with the colonial delegates. Gentlemen, this meeting's adjourned.
And so the idea of independence weighed heavily in the balance as the next 24 hours at the Barbados Independence Conference were proving to be very critical. It was rather clear that Barbados would not be granted independence if Mr. Lee had anything to do with it. Mr. Barrow not only faced suspicion abroad, but also at home in Barbados, where those in the upper class tried to paint him as a socialist or a communist who would dispossess the upper classes of their property and economic privilege if he ever became prime minister of an independent Barbados. Mr. Barrow's unrestrained language and impatience with both friends and foes contributed to this growing concern.
Barrow could be one who did not suffer fools gladly, who could cut you down with quite a withering stare, and also whose voice was gruff and could be heard over other people's zone telling you that you're an idiot. Several people, as a result, considered him a bully. Some people who worked closely with him saw the autocratic, irascible side of him.
How are we going to cover the expenses of this UE conference, sir?
Well, Barbados will have to underwrite the expenses as we do with the CARICOM meetings.
Well, in my opinion, this will cause great financial burden for Barbados at this time. Bearing in mind that we will have to host a CARICOM meeting in the next couple of months. To pay for each prime minister and their delegation.
Are you the Minister of Finance in Barbados?
Are you finished with me, sir?
When I first started working in the opposition office, one of the first letters I typed from Mr. Barrow, I took it in for him to sign.
Margaret, I'm not signing this.
What's wrong with the letter?
I am not signing this. You're throwing punctuation marks all over it like someone sprinkling salt and pepper over food.
Excuse me, sir. With all respect, you're a qualified lawyer and I'm a qualified secretary. And the way in which I typed that letter was how I was trained to do it.
Afternoon, Skipper. Hope I'm not too early.
Peter, come and read this letter here for me. See how Margaret literate with punctuation marks.
Well, in all honesty, as far as I can see, this letter is correctly typed and punctuated.
Correctly typed. Which letter? Not that. Let's check his glasses.
Later on in the afternoon, when he was leaving the office.
Okay, I hear you're getting ready to go home for the day, so you got anything else for me to say?
Only the letter with the salt and pepper all over it.
I felt, ooh, I won.
Errol Barrow was not a bully. He was resolute when he's making his decisions on behalf of the people of Barbados. He would listen to all and sundry, and after having heard everybody, he would take time out to give reasons for his actions.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for seeing me at such short notice.
Hey, no problem. We got a big breakfast waiting for you. Bojo bakes the works.
It's an honor to taste your cooking, Mr. Prime Minister.
If you haven't tasted the Prime Minister's Bojo, you're in for a treat.
Well, that's the saying, Trinidad. The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
I agree with that. So how can I help you, Mr. Clark?
Well, as you're aware, sir, BWIA has been of great benefit to Barbados and the rest of the Caribbean region. Regional businesses, interregional trade, international trade of all of the islands significantly benefit from our regional airline, BWIA. At this current time, however, BWIA is facing a significant financial challenge. And Trinidad and Tobago, we are reaching out to all of the island nations to have some financial assistance. We have been meeting with regional prime ministers, and we have been having some positive responses. So we are here today to ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, if you would once again come to the aid of BWIA and agree to financially assist the airline at this time.
And when are we going to see the papers?
What do you mean, sir?
When will Barbados see the financial papers of BWIA? Well, Mr. Clark, in Barbados, we don't buy pig in a poke.
Mr. Barrow fought very hard to integrate Barbados and to ensure equal opportunity in the workplace for all, regardless of the color of a person's skin or their socioeconomic background.
Wait, where the black workers? What's going on in here? Don't understand this.
It was therefore not surprising that some white Barbadians were afraid that if Barbados became independent and Mr. Barrow was prime minister, they might lose their jobs to black Barbadians, as at that time, many of the more lucrative jobs were held by whites.
I do remember on the process to independence, hearing many white Barbadians express doubts and fears about their future status in an independent Barbados. And I do know that at that point in time, many white Barbadians started to migrate from the island.
He used to say the most outrageous things about them on the public platform. He said the white people of Barbados are very resilient. Now, if you put them all into a little rowboat, take them out to sea, punch holes in the rowboat to sink them, they'll all find a way back somehow or other. They'll find their swim back in. They're very resilient people, which is true. And I think that was actually a form of flattery.
The picture has to be moderated because not all whites in Barbados are fair-skinned people hating Mr. Barrow. As a matter of fact, the Syrian Lebanese who came in, the Abeds, the Moseses, the Georges, loved Errol Barrow.
On closer examination, Errol Barrow's sometimes biting wit, calculated explosive anger, and intemperance of language could be easily attributed to his family upbringing. Errol's maternal grandfather, Joseph O'Neill, was a blacksmith in the 19th century. He prospered to the extent that he was able to purchase many properties, not only in St. Lucie, but also in the city of Bridgetown.
Uncle Errol was born in Nestfield, St. Lucie, and he was the fourth of 5 children. Uncle Graham, Auntie Nita Barrow, who's very well known, my mother Ina, Uncle Errol, and Auntie Sybil, who fortunately is still alive at age 94. Errol's father was Bishop Reginald Barrow, and his mother, Ruth O'Neill Barrow. Reginald Barrow was a very active Anglican priest and was not very present for Errol or his siblings in their formative years.
Actually, Uncle Duncan was the father figure for all of us, rather than Reginald Barrow, who unfortunately was, I think, a very selfish man.
His uncle, Dr. Charles Duncan O'Neill, also a national hero of Barbados, was a medical doctor who made a profound impact on the politics of Barbados during his time. He actually sat in the Parliament of Barbados, and in the 1920s had formed a political organization, the Democratic League, which actually contested elections, and also an organization that was an attempt at trade union organization, the Working Men's Association.
Charles Duncan O'Neill provided the financial wherewithal and that kind of security which the young Barrow desperately needed.
Uncle Errol attended Wesley Hall Primary School
and had the opportunity of studying at the tuition-based Combermere School for just one term before being transferred to Harrison College, where he completed his secondary school education.
He got an island scholarship, which could have taken him in those days to Codrington College, then a college of the University of Durham, where he could study classics or theology or whatever he wanted to study.
However, he turned down the much sought-after scholarship and instead decided to fight in World War II, where he became a pilot.
He enlisted in the RAF on 31 December 1940 and flew some 45 operational bombing missions over the European theater. By 1945, he had risen to the rank of flying officer and was appointed as personal navigator to the commander-in-chief of the British zone of occupied Germany, Sir William Sholto Douglas.
He and I had a common bond, and that we both flew in combat over a long period of time.
A lot of West Indians, they feel that they should help do something. So quite a few volunteers, they wanted England to get the help that they needed.
It is believed that Errol Barrow's service in the Royal Air Force, the most glamorous of the armed forces in World War II, helped to shape the kind of leader that he was.
After the Second World War, West Indian ex-servicemen were given the opportunity to study in Britain, and Errol Barrow took advantage of this opportunity.
In 1947, Errol Barrow studied law and economics at the London School of Economics, known as the cradle of socialist politics.
At the London School of Economics in those days was a renowned professor, Harry Lasky, who's written many, many books, who's renowned for the vibrancy of his ideas. And those ideas were democratic socialist ideas. So Errol Barrow became a democratic socialist, both by tuition at the London School of Economics, but also his uncle, Dr. Charles Duncan O'Neill, in his day had been talking about free education, about school meals for children, and about a whole set of other forward-looking things that would have sounded revolutionary in his time.
Mr. Barrow's social origins played a significant part in his achievements, behavior, and self-confidence. Mr. Barrow had no personal concept of inferiority, and he was totally at ease with himself. Now, this self-confidence manifested itself in hobbies including sailing, horseback riding, and flying, among other things. Now, these were activities in which the average Black Barbadian in that time could only dream of engaging. But none of these achievements made Errol see the average Barbadian as limited in their importance. He never used his social standing to oppress or to dominate. Rather, he fought for the betterment of the lives of all Barbadians.
Skipper, you there?
Come in, man.
Morning.
Jazz.
Hey,
Skipper. What are you doing about here so early?
I got a little trouble and I come for your advice.
Trouble. It's that young boy of yours again, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's he done now?
But you know you can't handle the liquor, and every time you drink, you run, you ready to fight with the first body that close to you.
You know, that boy needs some good licks because he backside. You know that, right? Okay, so he's in jail now. What do you want me to do about it? Huh? You know, I can't interfere with police business. Besides, probably do you some good to cool out in Glenderry for a bit anyway. See?
Yes, thanks. I know you can't interfere, but I had to talk to somebody, and I know that you was the best buddy that would listen.
Charlie, you're going to have to get you a lawyer. Now, I know this is money you ain't got. But I'm going to write down a name here for you. This is a young fella that just called the bar looking to get your feet wet. You go see him and tell him I sent you. And when that young vagabond get out of jail, you bring him here with me. All right? I'll set you straight with a good tongue lashing.
They call him a socialist Democrat, and that is what he was. His real goals in life was to empower those who did not have the same opportunity. He believed that all people are equal.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister, but I don't want to keep you back, but it's about that piece of land in St. Lucie that belonged to my father.
Right. Yeah, I got a lady here who's one of your clients, and she's saying she's not getting anywhere regarding a piece of land you got in Outland, St. Lucie.
Thank you for saying that.
Fred, yeah, I know you. You used to keep shop up at Cox Road before you moved down to St. David.
We have a boy and a girl at university.
And as you know, in these times, you must have an education in order to get here. And while the government does, pay the tuition, we still got to send them a little something from time to time. So we were hoping that you could find a little something for either of us to do.
Your constituency representative is Aaron Hopkins, right?
Well, to tell you the truth, sir, we tried to get through to Mr. Hopkins several times.
And what happened?
But we can't get through.
Brad, give me Aaron Hopkins on the phone, will you? What you need to understand is that Errol Barrow only speaks on the platform of city members who do their work. You got that? And I don't want to find no more people.
Beautiful shot by Gary Sobers. Really picked that up and clipped it.
Sir Gary Sobers has gone down in cricket history as one of the greatest all-rounders of all time, and his name is revered internationally. But for a brief time in 1970, he was far from popular in the region. He broke the then unwritten rule and played cricket in Rhodesia, whose white government had in 1965 become the first country to have United Nations sanctions imposed on it.
I didn't get any messages from anybody saying, don't go to Rhodesia. So I took it that everything was all right. I went there. I played in the double wicket competition. But when I came back to Barbados, I was met at the airport by a couple of reporters. And I was asked about my trip to Rhodesia, where they said was very, very good. And then I was asked about Ian Smith. And I said, I sat down, had tea with him, and I talked to him, and he seemed to be a wonderful person. And I think that's where the problem started, when I said I thought he was a wonderful person. Because after that, I was front page, middle page, and back page of every paper for about nearly a month and a half, to the extent that where I had a priest who came to my house and said he came to pray for me because he thought I might be assassinated. That is how bad it was. I wasn't welcome in Guyana. I wasn't welcome in Jamaica.
The international ramifications of his act became clear when Sobers was told that Indira Gandhi, India's Prime Minister, warned that a West Indies side, including Sobers, might lead to the cancellation of the 1970-71 tour by India.
And as you know, cricket was the biggest thing in the West Indies, and everybody looked forward to teams coming to participate because it also helped the Caribbean.
The pressure on him to apologize was considerable, and the controversy just would not go away. Errol Barrow was then called upon to solve the issue.
He was that kind of person. He said, we want cricket to go on because cricket is the solely thing of our countries, and it's very important to us and how we develop. So we need to have this Gandhi sending her team out to participate in this tournament. So he sat down with me and he said, look, let's write a little note in the paper, just saying, that you're sorry that you've hurt your people and that you apologize for going to Rhodesia, not knowing that this would happen. And I said, okay, we did that, and everything was all right.
I was out in the back this morning and I saw a nice breadfruit. And I said to myself, now that's just what Mr. Barrow likes, a nice breadfruit. So I cut it just for you.
Very kind of you, Mrs. Linton. Very thoughtful. Thank you. Mrs. Barrow and I will enjoy this tonight with some friends who are coming for dinner. Breadfruit and dolphin. What could be sweeter? Right?
He was a great entertainer. He loved cooking. He loved sharing. And it was an opportunity also to discuss issues.
When he was at school at London, he always used to complain that the English food didn't have any color, didn't have any taste, didn't have any this. So I suppose that motivated him to say, well, he's going to cook.
There was a celebration for Auntie Nita's 70th birthday, and Uncle Errol and I had to make buljol, saltfish buljol. Well, I really had to make it, if I recall. I was the one that Auntie Nita asked to make the buljol. I said, fine, I'll make it. Now, Trinidadians normally do not put cucumbers in buljol. Barbadians put cucumbers in buljol, more so than not. And I had done my buljol without cucumbers. And Uncle Errol came in, tasted it, and said, it must have cucumbers. And I said, but I am making a Trinidadian buljol. He said, no, buljol must have cucumbers. And he proceeded to start cutting up cucumbers. There was a buljol fight, a saltfish fight, about should it have cucumbers or shouldn't it? And in those days, of course, I figured I'm a big woman, so I could fight. And I could defend the territory. Needless to say, the Buljol ended up with cucumbers.
The problem with Errol Barrow and cooking food was that as he cooked, he ate. So on no occasion did I ever have a chance to eat with Errol Barrow. I ate Errol Barrow's food, but never ate with Errol Barrow. Because by the time the food was ready to be presented, he was pretty well full.
Well, it showed up in later life, his paunch. Food didn't frighten him. And when food saw him, they say, oh, we're gone. He was a good eater.
He liked cola tonic. He drank cola tonic and beefeated gin a lot. And a particular Sunday, I was at his home and he asked what I wanted to drink. And I said, well, you know, whatever you have. I said, I'm going to bring you a gin and cola tonic. He went back to his kitchen and discovered that there was no cola tonic in the house. 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, he said, have me excused. And he left the house in search of a bottle of cola tonic.
He would do a tremendous meal, but Uncle Errol was not cleaning up. And as much as we appreciated, he used every pot in sight, every spoon in sight, and he was obviously doing a variety and range of things, so he needed the entire kitchen, and whatever size the kitchen was, the entire kitchen was utilized.
Errol Barrow really liked shopping, I think, for 2 reasons. He was particular about the stuff he bought, but also it gave him an opportunity to mix with ordinary people at a level where they were comfortable, as against at a political meeting or in some formal structure. I think that meant a lot to him, seeing people where they were comfortable. On one occasion, I was shopping at Goddard's. I encountered him in the aisle.
Harold, what's that you got there? And that is a pigtail skipper.
Pigtail? That is no miserable thing in no pigtail.
Get it back in your bucket.
Ah, see that? Now that is a pigtail.
Nice. All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for looking over.
Anytime.
So from then on, I knew how to select a pigtail for cooking.
Uncle Errol's love for cooking led him to co-write a cookbook, Privilege, with Dr. Kendall Lee, a dentist from Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Lee, like Uncle Errol, had a passion for cooking, and Privilege, their cookbook, includes recipes drawn from a wide range of cultures that make up the Caribbean region.
I had to type out all the recipes and everything for him, and I found them all so fascinating.
The very first recipe in the book was fish tahini, and that recipe I gave to him.
Mr. Barrow showed a dislike for extravagance in his private life, and true to form, he carried this trait into his public life.
I am a penniless politician, but I wish to remain an honest one. What does it profit a man to be the Prime Minister of Barbados or of the West Indies? What does it mean? It means nothing. If you lose your soul and achieve those objectives.
He strongly believed that service to the country should not be financially driven.
Politics for him was about duty. It was not about personal advantage. It was not about just conducting debates and trying to win an argument. It was about touching people's lives and making those lives better.
What can you do for a man who is living at subsistence level after you have profited and acquired all these material comforts? How many meals a day can you eat? I want to tell all the young professional people in this country that nobody has ever been revered in history for having become the richest man.
Mr. Barrow was amongst the most positive experiences that I know many of my classmates and I certainly had during our college years. He came to us curiously during his vacation time, and he turned his vacation into work, but for a positive purpose, to help people along, to teach others. He sacrificed and showed other people that sacrifice is good. You can do good by going off script, if you will.
He took politics seriously 24 hours a day. And he asked no quarter, he gave none. He saw what he was doing as too important to be trifled with. And I think that Barbados and the Caribbean are the better off for it.
In 1962, 4 years before independence, Errol Barrow, in his capacity as Premier of Barbados, instituted free universal primary and secondary education on the island. This was perhaps the most significant single reform since emancipation.
Before free education came to Barbados in the 60s, the requirements to enter grammar schools were onerous. They were not simply pedagogical and educational. They were also class and race-based.
It was standard that you had to go through some form of test to get into the schools.
First question they ask you, what type of work does your father do? Now, if you said agricultural laborer, first strike against you. That didn't happen to Errol Barrow. His father was a priest, his uncle Duncan O'Neill was a plantation owner. Second question they asked you was, are your parents married to each other? In many cases, you grew up without a father in the home. You had a support system in terms of your mother, grandmother, and the external family. Your parents were therefore not married to one another. Strike two against you. Here came the killer question. When you got up this morning and you were preparing to come to this exam, and you were washing your face and hand and feet and bathing yourself, from where did you get water? You could use every letter in the alphabet. Do not begin a word with S, stand pipe. If you ever started standpipe, that's strike number 3 against you, because it was a means test.
Families tended to be large. You know, growing up, I would have heard of women who had 14 children and 12 children and so on. So obviously, when it came to the question of education, if anything, the boys would have been the ones that probably were given priority.
I gained entry into Harrison College. I jumped over all the loops that there were at that time to get into Harrison College. 2 of my sisters were going to Alexandra School. And of course, we were all paying school fees. $24 in the case of Harrison College at that time, but $24 was a lot of money for my parents. And they had to make a decision. And the decision was that they would have to take my 2 sisters from Alexandra School so that they could pay for my fees at Harrison College. As a matter, it hurt me very, very badly because she had to forfeit so that I could pursue my education.
I was among the first group of students to benefit from free education. I think it means more to me now than it meant then, because entering school and so on, yes, we knew that that policy would have been in place. But at 10 and a half, 11 years old, you don't think much about those things. Of course, you felt great to know that you were going to one of the island's leading secondary schools. And of course, it was a talk in the family. Oh, Ruth Potts was St. Michael's. And then this person will be saying, oh yes, so she going to high school now. She up with the big shots. It was really terrific. And to walk into that school and to see the daughters of Judge so-and-so and lawyer so-and-so, who we looked up to in those days, to me, that was marvelous, because you were literally rubbing shoulders with the elites in the land, because we were considered the poor. But here, we were all on common ground. Education created that level field for us.
Barbados is well known for its high standard of education, and as a small nation has long boasted one of the highest literacy rates in the world. Several Barbadian teachers have been recruited to spearhead education initiatives in countries such as the United States, Bermuda, and the Cayman Islands.
With free education came compulsory education, so you had no excuse for not sending a child to school. Consider without it, the woman who is sending her child probably to work on the plantation at 10 years old, 8 years old, never receiving an education. That child is in a hopeless state. There's no way that family is likely to get out of poverty. Free education brought about that fundamental change.
Barrow spearheaded the school meals service funded by the government, which provides free lunches to 100% of public primary school children.
When you're in school,
The government cannot afford to spend money for you to waste time in school. But as long as the government is not spending any money on you for the next 2 or 3 years, waste a little time.
One of the peculiar things about Uncle Errol is that he often insisted on having very little or no security.
If he had the right to be able to sign off on, say, the extra Secret Service attention, he did it. Because he thought that if he needed security to go a normal life and to serve, then he should be in another profession.
In Trinidad, for instance, when Mr. Barrow attended a Caribbean Heads of Government meeting in Port of Spain, he was seen quietly walking down the street in Port of Spain doing his own shopping.
The Trinidad government told me they have allocated 7 security officers to look after him. I said, not Mr. Barrow. And I had to argue to reduce it to 1. 1 security guard only. The man took him down to Kendall Lee's house, stayed there all night. Next morning, got up, Mr. Barrow was no longer there. He got up 4 o'clock in the morning and went to the market to buy some stuff to cook. Barrow stimulated a standard that we need to find a way of instilling once again.
One time we traveled to Qatar and we landed at Grantley Aden Airport. I have tape recorder Sony, I never forgot it. And I tell the officer, look, I am not paying that personal effect. The Prime Minister of Barbados will pay, I am not paying it. Custom officer said, you go ahead. And I tell him, I'm not paying, he said, you go ahead. But he pay, Errol Barrow pay duty in item he buy. I see it in my eyes. Not use government money for his own official. That's what you admire about him.
He asked you to stick to a rigid code. You couldn't take advantage of a situation.
I want every politician in Barbados to follow his footsteps, his legacy, dignity and principle, and loyalty for the people, not lying.
This was the caliber of man who was leading the charge for Barbados' independence. A World War II veteran, a graduate of the London School of Economics, and a man who never lost touch with the common man, but a man whom some said might have been too dictatorial to be trusted with an independent Barbados. Such were the sentiments of some Barbadians and of Mr. Lee, the colonial secretary of Britain, who, as you may remember, abruptly dismissed the Barbados Independence Conference simply because Mr. Barrow had refused to apologize to him. What was to be the fate of the conference? How was Barbados ever to gain its independence?
Mr. Lee disappeared. He did not appear again until the day when the conference ended.
On July 2nd, 1966, the decision was made by Great Britain to grant Barbados its independence. The Democratic Labour Party emerged as the winner of the election on November 3rd, 1966. And Errol Walton Barrow was now Prime Minister of an independent Barbados, the first Prime Minister of Barbados. The date for independence was set for November 30th, 1966.
This is a very proud moment in the history of the people of Barbados. I am glad, as I am sure that the members of my government are equally glad that we were born at a time when we could see this eventful day.
Independence Night in 1966 was exhilarating, an emotional moment, almost an epiphany.
The concept of this little rock becoming a nation was phenomenal. You wanted to hug everybody. You wanted to love everybody. You know, it was a great feeling.
The place was packed. Little ones, some in arms. The mothers would have to tell them, but they were there. It was good, but oh, rain, rain, and more rain.
But the people are still there. The all are standing. And I had the privilege of witnessing the Union Jack being lowered.
It was folded, put away, and the trident rose in its stead. And I remember a shout of jubilation from the assembled crowd and applause. And then fireworks burst because they had arranged a portrait of Mr. Barrow in fireworks. So this huge screen lit up with the exploding fireworks, and Mr. Barrow's image appeared out of the darkness of the night. So again, that was quite exhilarating. And then, of course, the governor at the time, who then became our Governor General, Sir John Stowe, he made that gesture in that famous, iconic photograph where both gentlemen are smiling, and he raises Mr. Barrow's hand like that. That's the prime moment of celebration, that a new chapter was opening for Barbados, and the history of Barbados would be rewritten in a different direction.
We were sort of like the people that you called when you wanted something really, really exclusive and big and whatever, and what better people to have to come to the independence. We were so excited because we had never been to Barbados. The thing that was very, very important to us, being Afro-Americans at the time, was having just had like the Civil Rights Bill passed in America. It was all about people being liberated and claiming their own, people being free. They had erected a small podium, and the stage was erected there, and a very small area for all of this happening that was supposed to happen there that evening. So we were kind of astonished that that's where we were going to perform. It ended up where they never expected that many people to show up from around the countryside. I mean, it wasn't just the city people, it was everybody showed up. So it was like thousands. And what happened was, once we started singing and the crowd was really into it and everything was happening, all of a sudden there was this huge push because people wanted to see. I mean, they had never seen, I guess, major stars at that point. They pushed so hard that it started I don't know, I won't say a riot, I don't know about that, but it became very confusing, and there was lots of turmoil up there, and we were trying to sing and trying to play, and pretty soon we were almost pushed off of the stage into the water. So I remember our drummer saying, "Bring the boat, bring the boat." So we were quickly put into these little boats and rowed to safety. I mean, it wasn't like people fighting. It was like people were trying to get close to see, because this was quite an event.
To successfully wage war on colonialism and to lead Barbados to independence was an enormous achievement for Errol Walton Barrow and his team. He was passionate about Barbadians' collective and individual self-image, and therefore independence was but one of the things a nation like Barbados, the colonial past, had to achieve in order to right that image and eradicate in the minds of Barbadians a negative view of themselves.
We have learned one lesson and one lesson alone. That is how not to live together in unity. We have evolved a formula for living together, but not having strength. This is one of the paradoxes of our colonial situation in Barbados. We must know who we are, whence we came, and where we are headed. May we use independence not as an end in itself, but as a turning point in time when we discover new energies for a massive and successful assault on the problems facing a small community. I do not want my children to grow up as second-class citizens. And I do not want the children of any of the ladies who work for me in my house, or the man who works in the garden, or the man who drives the proverbial omnibus, to grow up with any sense of inferiority to any person.
In December 1966, directly after the first Barbados independence celebration, Barbados attended the United Nations World Conference as a sovereign nation. Barbados was now a member of the United Nations.
We have no quarrels to pursue, and we particularly insist that we do not regard any member state as our natural opponent. We shall not involve ourselves in sterile ideological wranglings because we are exponents not of the diplomacy of power, but of the diplomacy of peace and prosperity. We are friends of all, satellites of none.
So the phrase friends of all and satellites of none, in fact, sets up Barbados's foreign policy basically for almost the next 50 years. We'll listen to to what people have to say. We will wait as it relates to our best interests, because that's what foreign policy is. And then we will make a decision based on that.
Prime Minister Barrow, the United States of America would like to thank Barbados for supporting our country and voting pro-Israel at the last meeting of the United Nations. To express our sincere gratitude, we'd like to extend an offer and pay Barbados' annual UN dues. Indeed, we are very grateful and would like to show our appreciation.
Mr. Ruck, I want to assure you that Barbados did not vote in the same manner as the USA to support the USA vote. As the Prime Minister of Barbados, I independently reached the conclusion to support Israel on this particular occasion. With respect to the dues, in the small island of Barbados where I am from, one does not join a club if one cannot afford to pay the dues oneself.
Later in the early 70s, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana recognized Cuba in nascent CARIFESTA, which then evolved into CARICOM. At the time when the US embargo of Cuba was going into a decade and simply getting stronger, those three nations, all newly independent, make that joint and bold declaration. And there are some historians and there's some political scientists that will make the argument that that particular stance eventually leads to where we are now, seeing the opening up of Cuba and the dismantling of that embargo.
Errol Barrow continued throughout his political career to fight for and to defend the sovereignty of Barbados, and sometimes in his zeal, international diplomacy suffered.
Mr. Barrow, understand this British Airways cannot change its stance. If you can't grant our request, rest assured we will have no choice than to shut down all of our offices in Barbados by the end of this month.
We have been colonies of Britain for 350 years, and I do not intend that Barbados be a colony of this airline. Do not wait until the end of the month. Close your offices and be out of Barbados in 2 days.
I think there must be something, we must be able to work something out. I don't think we're past the point of being able to negotiate some middle ground here. There must be something we can do.
Errol Barrow was extremely angry by Ronald Reagan's intervention as president of the USA in the affairs of the Caribbean. He did not mind Paul Schoon appealing to Margaret Thatcher and the British government to intervene. But Reagan, he thought, had no right to be intervening in the affairs of a CARICOM state. So Mr. Barrow called Reagan a cowboy.
He was determined to protect the sovereignty of the island and of the region as a whole, and therefore consistently maintained an independent position in international affairs.
HARP, short for High Altitude Research Project, was a joint venture between the United States and Canada. The goal was to launch satellites into space to explore Earth's upper atmosphere. The government thought it would be best interest for the Barbadian economy to have the project developed on the island. Now, for many Barbadians who lived on that southeastern coast of the island, they would remind you that whenever the gun was fired, literally the foundations of their house would shake. And in fact, at the first fire, people actually thought that the world was coming to an end. However, it was soon rumored that what was being developed in Barbados was really a long-range weapon system, the kind that would be used by the then apartheid South African Defense Force against the freedom fighters and the Cuban Expeditionary Forces in neighboring Angola.
This is one of the lowest instances in Errol Barrow's otherwise stellar career as a prime minister, because he, like others, hailed the HARP project as something to take Barbados out of being a colonial backwater into the front rank of stratospheric research.
The concept of it was a brilliant idea, but I think they got sidetracked into some of these awful international things. So it smeared the image of the Barrow government at that time.
It is a belief of many historians that Barrow's administration transformed Barbados from being a village into a nation.
Mr. Barrow showed immense latitude, vision, and economic insight evidenced by his direct influence and support for the establishment of several Barbadian businesses, such as Simpson Motors, Goddard's Enterprises Limited, Furniture Limited, and Courts, among others.
Mr. Barrow really saw the value of joint venture business activities in Barbados. Most markedly, our bakery operation became a joint venture between Corporate Foods of Canada and Goddard Enterprises. So that set the strategy for our growth in airline catering development.
In the early stages, Barrow would often invite business people to Barbados to develop the business sector on the island in exchange for tax incentives.
When we first came to Barbados, we told Dipper that we will be establishing factories because manufacturing was the most important factor to earn foreign exchange. So we set up the factories to go into motion. And then Dipper said one day, he said, look, I want my country people to get goods to them in a cheaper fashion.
At that time, a greater number of Indian immigrants who had come from Bengal looking for a better quality of life began to immigrate to Barbados.
These people had come with nothing in their hand, but they were hardworking, good people. So we gave them credit and they started buying goods from us, and they went from door to door where they would take $5 and then collect maybe 25 cents, maybe 50 cents every week from the people. The Bajans called them the coolie man.
After Barbados became independent, sugarcane still remained a chief moneymaker for Barbados. However, the Barrow government sought to transform an economy solely dependent on sugar production into an economy based on tourism and the offshore sector. During that period, visitors from both Canada and the United Kingdom started arriving in Barbados in greater numbers, transforming tourism into a huge contributor to the Barbadian economy.
You know, we had a tourist industry, but it was just like whatever happened, God. But he saw that we had to diversify, and therefore we had to look to other means. And therefore tourism was one, because, you know, our beaches are beautiful, the country is lovely, the people are. And he saw into the future to have us today where we are.
Errol Barrow was among the dominant figures in the political landscape of Barbados for more than 2 decades. But what about Errol Barrow, the man, the husband, the father? Errol Barrow was married to the beautiful and talented Carolyn Marie Plaskett in 1945. She was a native of Orange, New Jersey, where she was born on January 31st, 1917.
She met Errol at a party in Toronto in 1945, and he was with the Royal Air Force, I believe, at the time. And within months, they got married at her father's church in Orange, Church of the Epiphany. And then they moved to London, where he studied at London School of Economics. She had already done her training. She had trained in Paris in fashion design. She had been to Parsons School of Design.
And Carolyn was your consummate artist. She was a portrait artist. Wherever she lived, she had a space that was her studio. She thrived on her art. Thrived not from a commercial point of view, but from a creative point of view. And Aunt Carolyn was a creative woman.
She was already, let's say, accomplished in her own right. So, you know, there are visions of a woman hanging on to a man for what he has become, but she was her own person.
Leslie, their first child, was born in 1950 at the University Hospital in London. In 1953, their youngest child, David Barrow, was born.
They're just like their parents in the sense that they're down to earth, unpretentious. I think that's a great tribute for all the pressures that family must have gone through being a public family.
Uncle Errol was very present. And he was always present, particularly at dinner time. He was still interested as a father and an uncle in what did you do today?
During Errol's time as Prime Minister, Mrs. Barrow entertained persons from all walks of life from around the world in their home at Culloden Farm. She and her husband were a formidable team.
The last thing I think she thought she was going to be was the First Lady of a country. Because let's go back a bit. As an African American in the 50s and 60s, There's no way you're going to think you're going to be a first lady in this lifetime. Having Carolyn show up at the White House in her capacity as the First Lady of Barbados, but also dually being the first African-American First Lady, even though it's a different country, was pretty phenomenal when you think about it. One of my favorite stories about Carolyn is I went to visit David, because David and I are the same age. I was staying upstairs, and Carolyn was getting ready for some kind of reception that was going to happen that night. So she's running around the upstairs with rollers in her hair, and the TV is on, and she's watching her favorite soap opera, and she's like, oh, I got to go. What happened next? What happened next? Okay, and then she run in her room and do something. And then finally, there came a moment where obviously she had to get ready to go downstairs. They told her, okay, you know, the guests are coming. So she pulled it together and, you know, was the sophisticated, beautiful woman that emerges from all of this preparation, right? So she goes down, and as she's going down, she's assuming the role of the First Lady, you know, and all of a sudden she's in a receiving line.
But alas, the strain of a reformer and servant of the people was to take its toll on the marital bliss of the Barrows.
I got a call from Prime Minister Barrow. He said a representative is coming from Trinidad to meet with me. I want you there at 6 o'clock, and it's to be at my house. So at 6 o'clock, I made my way to Mr. Barrow's house. He said, well, you sit here. There's a round table just under the stairs. I'll go into the kitchen and make some breakfast for us.
What are you doing in my house at this hour of the morning?
So sorry, Miss Barrow, but I'm here to discuss some matters with your husband.
Mr. Holder, at this ungodly hour.
Sorry, but I'm sure you know by now how it is being married to a politician.
I never married a politician. I married a sergeant in the Royal Air Force, and I ended up with a politician.
Don't worry about she. Always going on about something.
And I'm feeling good.
Early morning visits, long periods away, and other challenges of political life proved a weight too heavy to bear. Mrs. Barrow eventually moved out of the matrimonial home. Nina Simone, a famous American singer, songwriter, pianist, arranger, and civil rights activist, came into Mr. Barrow's life. After 2 years, her relationship with Errol Barrow ended, partly because she wanted him to go public with their romantic involvement. Nina's last studio album, A Single Woman, contains a track dedicated to Mr. Barrow titled The Folks Who Live on the Hill. Later in his life, he was involved with the Belgian model, Janine Chipolato.
People were worried that this white foreigner had come and taken Errol from his family, but actually she cared a lot about him, and she looked after him very, very well.
She became very important to Errol in the latter part of his life, as she would try her very best to keep Mr. Barrow in good health and on a strict diet. It was a known fact that Errol Barrow struggled with controlling his weight for a very long time. He had suffered from diabetes mellitus since 1972, with complications affecting his heart and nervous systems. He would experience severe pain from time to time, but as a true war hero, he pressed on regardless, making his undying contributions to the development of Barbados. Errol Barrow became Premier of Barbados in 1961. He and the Democratic Labour Party enjoyed 3 victories in succession for a total of 15 years at the helm. But as the 1976 election approached, the tide was about to change.
Barrow was serving an unprecedented 3rd term in Barbados at the time, in the 71 election. The slogan then was, how long is too long if it's good? Because people were saying he was in government too long.
His flaws began to be revealed perhaps after about 10 years in government, when I think he became a little arrogant and dismissive of people. You know, you begin to feel that this is yours, you can run it the way you want to run it.
The Barrow government in 1974 sought to make 23 amendments to the Constitution of Barbados, and many organizations felt that they were not consulted. One such organization was the Anglican Church, who also challenged him. In retaliation, Barrow then chastised the Dean of St. Michael's Cathedral, stating that the church was rife with intolerance and that democracy was only outside the cathedral and not inside.
He thought that he owned Barbadians, so to speak. Some of my friends were telling me that I had to be careful how I spoke and so on, because there was so much fear in the country, fear of victimization, fear of people losing their jobs and so on. And Mr. Barrow used the scriptural passage of the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, implying he could give and he could take away.
Each Sunday, Dean Critchlow preached a message entitled, Mene, Mene Tekel, Upharsin. Barbadians gathered around their radio on Sunday mornings to hear his message. He had become the voice of those who resisted Barrow.
Around that time, people thought that I was going to be assassinated. There was one special occasion. As I ascended the pulpit stairs, I saw two men huddled together in front of the organ pipes. And the Friday of that week, a chap riding a bicycle stopped me and said, I think you're a lucky man. Two men went into the cathedral last Sunday to shoot you, and you just got off.
Barbados would be given a launching pad for an economic takeoff.
Barrow's opponent, Tom Adams, son of Barrow's former mentor, and his Barbados Labour Party bellowed throughout the land a cry of time for a change.
After 3 terms in office, a total of 15 years, Barrow and the Democratic Labour Party lost the 1976 election.
The Young Democrats was asked to gather at headquarters in George Street, and I went down there. They were crying. One man took our flag and threw it through the window. One young lady took an overdose of drugs, all right? And I went into the inner sanctum and saw Mr. Barrow sitting in a chair. And a comrade rushed inside and says, Dipper, the thief of the elections, call the police out. And I watched Barrow sitting there. Says, that's not so. The people have spoken.
The general election of 1986 turned the tide in favor of the Democratic Labour Party once again, with Barrow at the helm.
Any other person for the time being lawfully performing the functions of that office.
All downtown, all over, there was people celebrating all right through the night to the morning. People were celebrating. I will never ever forget that.
I think Barbados at that time was going through so much. People were looking for hope, and he represented hope. So that when that mirror image speech was given, it was just like everything coming together. And I think after that speech, everybody knew that the Democratic Party would have won that election in 1986.
However, in May 1986, his health issues caught up with him.
A story went out that Mr. Barrow had missed his breakfast, and out of hunger pains, I fell down the elevator. It took me to the ER room. The specialist told me this, sir, I'm sorry, but we examined you and only one valve to your heart was working, and therefore you have limited time.
I believe it was a Monday afternoon. I went home, but before I could enter the house, my telephone was ringing. I answered it, and Dr. Richie Haynes, was at the other end, telling me we'd want you down at Camp Barrow as soon as you can. And I went and they parked the car, and as soon as I got out and got the door of Kampala. Richie Haynes met me there and said, Errol is dead.
The skipper gone.
And I went hot and cold the same time. I couldn't believe I just sat there. Stunned.
Words cannot express how I felt. Tears came to my eyes. I can't believe this could be true.
He had just completed 1 year in office, and he had so much more to do for Barbados.
It was really so sudden, it surprised us all.
He had left us.
Apparently on his last day, he had a huge meal, including liver and bacon and things like that. And so I think that, yes, he must have known, but he simply would not give in.
The funeral was held at the National Stadium. There was thousands of people there. And the service was very touching. And then to see the casket leave and you say, well, this is the end of your seeing Errol Barrow.
Mr. Barrow requested cremation, and his ashes were thrown all over the Caribbean because he believed in the Caribbean people.
Every 1st of June, I make sure I go to the sea. So that is my way of becoming close.
The intensity with which Barrow practiced his politics. Meant that it would have an impact on some aspect of his life. He was very indisciplined in terms of eating and in terms of drinking. He was prepared to just live the way he wanted to live. And tragically, we lost him far, far too early.
Errol Walton Barrow would be remembered for leading Barbados through many great advances, including the acceleration of industrial development, formulation and expansion of the island's tourism industry, the introduction of national health insurance and social security, and the creation of free education on all levels, among many other groundbreaking initiatives.
He infused in Barbadians a sense of self-worth, self-dignity, and self-actualization. He spoke to us about what we as a people could do and what we could achieve. And he was very passionate about that.
Certainly given the Black people a sense of belonging, a sense of owning. I mean, for national insurance, that's an excellent idea.
No right-minded Barbadian could honestly not acknowledge what Mr. Barrow did for this country. He was a very determined and obviously committed nationalist.
The vision he had for Barbados is living in us today.
I believe that had Errol Barrow been born in North America or any part of Europe, he would have been a world leader.
He really was a gift of God, I think. You know, he just went beyond what he had to do.
A statue in honor of this great hero was erected in Independence Square in the heart of Bridgetown, the nation's capital, in 2007. The Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow, father of our nation.
I want to know what kind of mirror image do you have of yourself? This is what I am concerned about. What kind of mirror image do you have of yourselves? Do you really like yourselves? Because you can never really like anybody unless you first like yourself. There are too many people in Barbados who despise themselves, and their dislike of themselves reflects itself in their dislike of other people. People who live next door to them, members of their family, husbands and wives, and the ox and the ass and the stranger within the gates. What kind of mirror image do you have of yourself? I want to know what kind of mirror image do you have of yourself?
What kind of mirror image do I have of myself? Why should only one man have a mirror image of you that you do not want to have of yourself?
What kind of society are we striving for? There's no point in striving for utopia, but you do not realize your potential.
What kind of mirror image do I have of myself?
What kind of mirror image do I have of myself?
Gotta talk to you living. Life is for living, y'all. Gotta know who you are. Hey girl, when was the last time you discovered the joys, the gifts been promised to you? No, I'm not talking to the pretty face in the picture or the mirror, but the soul crying out inside of you. The one with the fire and tears in her eyes, been broken and torn but won't compromise. Got a dream in her heart, no matter what it takes. Work harder, aim higher, and one day she'll say, hey, I got this, I own this. Ain't nobody gonna take it away from me. I am blessed beyond the measure. Find a winner, lover, the lion in me. Let me roll. I got the tickets, baby. I've got to go. Life is for living, and I know. And today I take control, 'cause I know who I am. I work hard, I play hard, I know. I've been there before, and I know. Hey boy, young man, understand. You're a son, a king, a leader, represent who you are. Who you are. The streets don't define you. That chick who lied to you, her skirt's not your savior. Don't get lost in her desires. No, it's a funny little thing that trap called love. Yeah. So don't be like the man who walked away when you were younger. Stand strong, just hold the ground. You gotta be much stronger. Yeah. This race is designed to keep you down. Believe in what you want, grab it on and speak it out and say, I got this, I own this. Ain't nobody gonna take it away from me. I am blessed beyond the measure. Find a winner, lover, the lion in me. Let me roll. I got the tickets, baby. I've got to go. Life is for living, and I know. And today I take control, 'cause I know who I am. And I know who I own this. Ain't nobody gonna take it away from me. I am blessed beyond the measure. Find a winner, lover, the lion in me. Let me roll. I got the tickets, baby. I've got to go. Life is for living, and I know. And today I take control, 'cause I know who I am. I work hard, I play hard, I know. I've been there before, and I know.